Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. AI is one of the very best narratives that we can be looking and investing into as we get ready to go into this next bull cycle. During this cycle, you're going to see a lot of narratives that are playing out, some of them providing over 100x returns. Inside of this cycle, I firmly believe that AI is going to be one of those narratives to be watching, one that's going to give us some of the best returns inside of the market. So for today's video, I'm going to be breaking down 3 of my favorite AI cryptos, ones that I'm invested in that I think are going to go much higher, and what we're going to be watching for with these moving forward over the next couple years. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, before we talk about the AI coins, I wanted to go through and actually talk a little bit about what we're seeing with Bitcoin, helping you guys to visualize the bigger picture. Now, if we're getting into the shorter time frames, let's jump into the 4-hour. We can see that after yesterday's breakout, we pretty much instantly, retraced basically the entirety of that move. Now, the question comes, are we going to end up holding this, or is it going to end up, coming all the way back down to potentially the range lows before making any sort of leg up? And so until this, finalizes one way or another, I'm not worrying too much about it, and I don't think that anybody else should either. Overall, what I'm watching for to give us a lot more of a clear indication of what's going on is actually the total market cap. And the reason why is because inside of analyzing the total market cap, we're going to see that the market obeys levels a little bit more symmetrically. Whereas Bitcoin, is already broken out, it's already sitting outside of its resistance. The total market cap still hasn't broken and made a new high. And so, you could make the argument that we just did that yesterday. And so as it stands, the total market cap is, in my opinion, telling us that we're about to be going up much higher. Because if we look at this, we can see that this was resistance, right? This has been resistance for a long period of time. The last 2 highs that we've had, both got rejected at this level. And now we're finally making another attempt at a breakout. And we can see, as the market was rallying over the last week, we're seeing this pullback, but this pullback is coming right back down onto prior resistance as new support. And that's really why I'm not giving this, correction too much seriousness. I don't think it matters very much, because even though Bitcoin is kind of sitting in no man's land and it looks like we could get a deeper correction here, when we're looking at the total market cap, this thing is sitting right at a breakout of the range highs. So even if this thing pulls back, we consolidate here for a little bit, I still think that this is just going to result into some type of bullish retest before us getting continuation to the upside. So that's what I'm watching for in the shorter time frames. Big picture, the fact that we're seeing the total market cap breaking out, flipping a new high, confirms that our wave 3 impulse is starting. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, basically mapping out our Elliott wave count. And when it comes to looking at our Elliott wave count, we have a perfect 5-wave impulse off of the lows. We got our ABC correction that followed after. And then at the bottom of wave C, we've now seen that secondary impulse that's taking us above the range highs. So this is so far everything that I expected to play out is actually playing out. We've broken out of all descending resistance, indicated right here. The market's sitting at the range highs, actually flipping the range highs as new support. I do believe that this sets in motion, once we can really get that next leg up, the move upwards of 40K and potentially even 50K, depending on how impulsive this gets. But when we're looking at this, if we finished a wave 1, there's a certain level that we have to get to actually have a wave 3, right? So when we're looking at this, we can use Fibonacci. We go from the low of the move to the high, and then you draw this line at the mid-range. Wherever it corrects back down to the bottom of wave C, that's where we put this secondary line. And you guys are going to notice that we have a minimum target here of the 1618 being about 1.845 trillion. So when we're looking at this, guys, this is the price that we have to hit. Because you guys got to keep in mind that inside of Elliott wave theory rules, there has to be a certain relationship that is followed through Fibonacci. Now, inside of the Elliott wave count, wave 1 is the smallest wave, generally the smallest wave. Wave 3, which is the one we're getting into now, which if I draw it out here, this is wave 1, this was wave 2. We're working on wave 3 right here. So inside of a wave 3 impulse, it can't be smaller than wave 1. So it has to be at least the same size as this most recent impulse, but oftentimes it's going to be even bigger than that. So our minimum target if the price goes up to this 1618, that will be at least the same size as the last impulse, which is our minimum target for a wave 3. And we're inside of wave 3 right now. Remember, this is going to break out, make a big impulse up, and then this will be our big picture wave 3 impulse. And so when we're looking at this, we have to go to at least the 1618 being about $1.84 trillion, which is basically the same as 40K. And I do believe that, we're most likely going to end up running upwards of this lower high being about 2.15 trillion, which would be closer to 48K. So seeing us top somewhere in between the 2618 and the 1618, that's a perfect area to look for a target inside of wave 3, but we have to go to a minimum of the 1618 to confirm that this actually is a wave 3. If this thing stops prematurely of that, and we don't end up filling this all the way, we come up to here and then start correcting, that means that our wave 3 is not over yet, right? Because we have to go to at least here. And most likely we're going to go higher than that. That's kind of why I drew this higher target being 48,500, is because I think that we're going to end up topping somewhere up there. So when we're looking at this, we just started that next wave 3. Overall, everything is looking bullish. Everything is playing out exactly as we need it to see further upside. And now with us flipping the range highs as new support, I think there's about to be a lot of money coming back into altcoins. So with that being said, guys, let's jump into the altcoins I had to share with you. Let's get into the AI narrative and talk a little bit about why I think that these 3 altcoins are going to provide some of the biggest gains inside of this next cycle. Alrighty, guys, first up on today's list is going to be Tau or Bittensor. Now, this is going to be a new AI crypto that, there's a few people talking about. I don't remember who the guy was on Twitter that initially got me into this, but I ended up buying a position quite a while ago, held throughout this entire correction, and I think that, I'm still at a slight loss to break even now. I don't know exactly where I'm at. I have to go look at the position, but I know that I'm pretty much at break even. Now, when we're looking at this market, this is one that I really find interesting because when we're talking about narratives that are going to play out in a big way, I don't think that there's going to be many as powerful as what AI, brings. If you guys don't use AI, I've been using AI as far as ChatGPT for writing emails, writing YouTube video descriptions, writing Twitter threads, different sort of things when it comes to me typing out documents, grammatically correcting things, making sure my punctuation, all of that stuff is right. I've been using AI for so many different things, and it's really changed my life to the point that I'm really diving even further into the AI narrative, not so much with just crypto, but just using the stuff, learning how to use it, being able to be at the forefront of this narrative so that once the real hype sets in, I already have a foundation of knowledge. I can kind of jump into anything that's going on, and we can look to make money. Because, guys, crypto is amazing, and I do think that AI is going to shine in this narrative, but it's a narrative in and of itself that is going to shine long-term regardless of what crypto does. So if you haven't learned about it, if you haven't used it, a lot of you guys work normal jobs where, probably a lot of what you guys are doing is paperwork. Maybe a lot of you guys have emails you have to write. If you go ahead and check out ChatGPT, you guys will be very thrilled with the abilities that it has. So when we're talking about AI cryptos, I think that this is a huge opportunity of getting in early, finding different assets that are going to perform well, and then ultimately looking to get a long-term position. And Tau is going to be one of those cryptos. Now, when we come over here, if you guys want to know what Bittensor actually is, we can come over here and actually take a look at their website. This is going to give you guys a little bit of an idea. So according to Dex Tools, we're sitting at about $4.5 million in total market cap. I don't know if that's accurate. I have no idea 100% for sure, but I do think that it is relatively low in market cap. Now, I'm putting this one number 1 because out of all of the coins on today's list, this is going to be the most undervalued and it's going to have the most upside potential. And basically what it is, it's the first neural internet. So it's a machine learning protocol. Basically, with AI as a whole, a lot of these different protocols, the more information you put into them, the more they're able to learn. And I mean, it's kind of like a human. The more stuff you learn on a subject, the more tools that you have to be able to relearn new information. And so AI works in the same way. So they're constantly feeding this thing new information, and because of that, it's able to actually learn and grow and actually enhance its own abilities. So I'm not going to get into all of this stuff. If you guys want to go ahead and check it out, it's more or less just like Ethereum, but AI Ethereum, right? And so I think that with this narrative being something that's going to play out in a bigger way, this is going to be one of those that has a lot of upside potential, mainly because of the fact when we're comparing it to other AI cryptos, this one has really strong fundamentals. Now, when we're looking at things, it's got its own exchange, so we can actually trade this on their exchange if you wanted, or you could actually buy the wrapped ERC20 version. Now, the chart's going to be really small, so I apologize for all of this, but this is going to help you guys to visualize where we're at in the grand scheme of things. So ever since July, this is really where we got added to exchanges, and it only ever had one cycle. We went from $5 all the way up here to about $120 approximately. And so during that time was our first run up in the cycle. I think I bought pretty much the top of this, somewhere around $70 and $80. And so we're currently sitting right around my entry point. But when I'm looking at this long term, all we have is one cycle, one correction, and then a sideways consolidation. Now we're starting to get markup, and I think that this is the next leg up that's going to be taking us into price discovery. So remember, what we're looking at right now when I come back over to this chart is we don't have the entirety of the cycle, we just have the all-time high and the correction. So when we're looking at this, if we have an opportunity for buying a dip in here, let's assume we correct back down to about $70, that is a huge buy opportunity, and I think that that should be one where you jump into it if you are planning on buying it. Because most likely, this thing's going to continue to trend up in the big picture. We're going to see this thing going into a new all-time high. And when this thing starts to take off, there isn't much of a supply, right? The supply is really small. So when we're looking at this, I don't know what the circulating supply is. It doesn't say. But the max supply is 21 million, same as Bitcoin. And the total supply is currently 5.5 million. At the end of the day, this has a pretty small supply, one of those that could make a pretty sizable run in price depending on what it is long term. It's got a fully diluted valuation of about 500 million, so there is a little bit of inflation that can happen here considering the fact only unlocked is 5.5 million. We still have quite a bit of the supply to go. But I don't think that that matters a whole lot. We've seen cryptos do their thing in bull cycles. Once the hype comes in, the price is going to do its own thing. And to me, this is a long-term investment. I do think that this is going to be one of the best cryptos. And if we're actually sitting at $4.62 million in total market cap, this thing has plenty more upside potential to go before this cycle is over. So if you're looking for a good AI crypto that's undervalued, one that has significant upside potential, whether you wait for a correction or whether you jump in now, to me, I'm just holding for the long term. I wanted to get a position now and just see what it turns into. Because when we're talking in terms of something that could potentially do 50 and 100x, this is actually a prime example of this. So be watching out for Tau. I will link it in the description. Now, next up on today's video is going to be Fetch.AI. Now, Fetch.AI is one of the older cryptos. It's been around even from the last cycle, and I actually made a little bit of money off of this one in that last bull run. And it's honestly been telling me that it's going to end up continuing to lead as of now. It did a 10x off of the lows during this first impulse. We saw a correction, and we're already starting to see another big impulse forming. I honestly think that this is going to continue to be one of the leaders, one of the blue chips of the AI narrative. And so if you're looking for a safer investment, one that's already listed on exchanges, one that probably won't give you the same upside potential as maybe one of these that are relatively low in market cap, but one that's still going to give good returns and be a little bit of a safer pick, Fetch.AI is a great option to have. Now, one of the great things I like about this chart, very clear Elliott waves, wave 1, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. Many of my favorite altcoins of the last cycle had perfect Elliott wave structure. The clearer the Elliott waves, the more accumulation the market has, the more hype that is generated behind it. And I think that that's something that we can watch out. When we're looking at terms of which altcoins could continue to see adoption, the ones that show the best price structure, in my opinion, are ones that are going to continue to end up performing well long term. And I don't find it coincidental that this one has some of the clearer to identify Elliott wave structures, and it's having such a good start to kick off this next bull run. I think that it's all relative to the cycles. Now, when we're looking at this, we finished our ABC correction all the way back down in here. And so all this is a one wave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC. This entire move is a wave 1 impulse. And we're now beginning wave 3. That's why I think that these are some of the better investments that we can get in, is because anytime we see a one wave impulse to begin a cycle, and then we're getting the subwaves of the next wave 3, this is what always happens before some of the biggest returns end up playing out. Because if you guys are looking at this, remember how we had a minimum target when we were analyzing our Fibonacci? We can do the same thing with this market as well. We can go from the low to the high, back down to the bottom of wave C, and we have to go to at least the 1618, which is going to be $2 for this next wave 3 to even be completed. But when we're talking about something having a long-term wave count, honestly, a lot of the times these things just go up so high that they just dwarf their last cycle entirely. And I think that a good example of that, Quant. Quant was one of those that made some of those early trending cycles, right? Just these small impulses, a correction. And then once it started wave 3, it spent a lot of sideways accumulation building a trend. But once wave 3 came in there, this is what it ended up turning into, right? So when we're looking at this cycle, this is how I'm viewing all of these. When I'm looking at Fetch, I'm looking at this entire little impulse as it's going to be some little tiny blip on the grand scheme of things. Like if this thing goes to $10, which I think is definitely doable, if we have a new cycle that is a lot more similar to 2017, I think that this thing will definitely be at a $10 valuation, which from where we're at right now is a pretty solid return. Almost 30x returns. That's basically what ETH did if you bought the bottom of its last cycle. And it could go much higher than that. We don't know. But this one does have a little bit of a higher market cap. The big thing I like about this is we have our subwave, wave 3. This is wave 1 of 3. I believe wave 3 of 3 comes next. And then we still have a whole nother wave 5 of 3 to go before that impulse is over. And so I still think that this thing's got plenty more upside long term. It's one of the best. There's a reason why it's been leading the charge for AI altcoins up to this point, and I think it's something that we need to continue to focus on. If you're looking for a long-term AI play, this is a good safe pick in my opinion, and it's one that I'm going to be looking for long-term as well. Now, be watching out for Fetch. Now, the last one on today's list is going to be Ocean. Ocean is in the exact same situation as Fetch. In fact, they follow each other. They were both on the same exchanges back in the day, and this is one I've been holding since all the way back over in here, 2020 of the last cycle. Now, when we're looking at this, it's the same situation. We have a wave 1, we have a wave 3, wave 4, and a wave 5. Clear Elliott wave structure, followed by this big ABC back down. You could argue that the Elliott waves are even better on Ocean, but it doesn't really change anything. What we do know is Fetch is actually outperforming it, and so that's why I put Fetch first, is because even though this one's a little bit smaller of a market cap, Fetch is probably going to continue to outperform it long term. Now, they're in the exact same situation here. They've both finished ABC corrections, and they've both broken out of long-term descending resistance. Fetch broke out quite a while ago, but Ocean just recently broke out around June of this year. And we had a little bit of a sideways correction outside of this descending resistance, but we're now finally starting to see a little bit of markup. And so I think that once we end up holding support in here, I think that this one's going to start that next leg up here, and it's going to be a very profitable one to be watching, considering the fact, in the same way that Fetch has only finished a one-wave impulse right over here, Ocean is in the same boat right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Get our little correction, A, B, C, and now we're starting that next impulse again. So now this is a wave 1, wave 2, I believe wave 3 comes next, and then we still have wave 5. So if Fetch is sitting at new all-time highs, which it's looking like it will, our minimum target for this next impulse when it comes to Fetch is looking like an all-time high move. And so with Ocean, it's going to be a little bit smaller than that, but it's not going to be too much smaller. It's going to be relatively close to the same thing. This one would be looking at a move upwards of here, whereas, Fetch is going to be sitting around all-time highs. So that's why I say that this will probably get underperformed. This will probably underperform in comparison to Fetch, but they're both the same chart. They're both the same thing. If one is easier to invest in, maybe go for that one. If one of them's accepted on an exchange you use more, maybe go for that one. Or if you're just looking for a good solid pick, Fetch and Ocean are both good picks because they go back from the last cycle. They have good structure. They have plenty of volume coming in here. Their prices are breaking out, outperforming many different altcoins. Those are all things that you want to be looking at when it comes time to invest in the long term of a trend. So if you guys are looking for an AI trend, Ocean, Fetch, and Tau are all great options. I think that these are going to be some that perform very well long term. I'm going to link them in the description so that you guys can go ahead and check them out. Do your own research on the matter. That's all I can really tell you guys unless you join the Discord server, which for anybody that's watching that wants to see how I'm investing, where I'm buying these things, what I'm looking at long term, what I'm going to be selling, links are in the description to go ahead and check out my website. From the website, you're going to be able to join my private group on Discord. I post all of that stuff, entries, exits, and anything you guys want to be able to learn. more on how to make money and how I'm making money in my portfolio, links are in the description to go ahead and check it out. Thank you guys so much for the support. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And I'm really thankful to be able to make these videos. We got a great cycle ahead of us. Lots of profit, lots of opportunity to be had, especially for those that have been preparing over the last few months. So if you guys found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.